As we continue from part 4 here in part 5, we're just going to do a dry fit to make sure that the drill hole patterns match the floor flange patterns. For the remaining shells, we're just going to repeat this again, drilling the hole for the 1.5 inch as well as the drill bolt patterns for the floor flange. Again, this is another dry fit. We're not ready to assemble yet because we want to paint everything its proper color before we start the assembly. Again, the assembly of the floor flange consists of a Phillips head screw, a lock washer or spring washer as they call them sometimes, and a bolt. Hopefully everything I'm doing is pretty clear and straightforward, but if not, note the timestamp and give me a comment below and I'll answer your questions. This is the smallest shelf, the top shelf that sits on top, 12 by 12. We're going to countersink the top surface of the board or the shelf so that the screws will sit flat. As I mentioned in part 4 of the video, instead of using steel pipe, I found some PVC pipe in the plumbing section, not the white PVC, but this is gray PVC pipe, and it's less expensive than the steel pipe. 1/2 inch diameter, 12-inch long steel pipe is roughly $4.50 each, and this is in the range of $1.50 each. And I think this has enough stiffness to support the tree and your villages on top. We're at the point of this project where we need to start talking about painting. I think everything is almost at the point of ready to assemble, and we should start painting everything before we start the assembly. For example, like this portion that's shown here, the gray portion and the floor flanges, maybe they should be painted green like I suggested. The shells themselves, they can either be two colors. They can either be white on the top and green on the bottom and green on the side, of course, or they can be just white on the top and bottom, and try to put a little bit of green color on the edges, because your garland is going to be on the edges of each shelf, so you want to make sure that the background, as you see through the garland, is green as well. So this is a point where I'm not going to get into actually doing the painting, but this is where you should stop and start consider painting at least the floor flanges and the vertical half-inch pipes. One note of caution is to try to not paint the threads either on the inside of the floor flanges or the threads on the pipes. So you can put a little tape around there. I didn't show it all, but again, white paint, green paint, and I threw in a little glitter that adds a little bit of sparkle to your tree background. For the portion of the pipe that goes into the revolving stand, don't forget, like I mentioned earlier in the earlier parts, to put a little bit of electrical tape or duct tape around it to make it stiff and won't wobble. I'm trying to keep this from being so complicated, but one of the next things I'm suggesting, and it's not really necessary, but you can make that decision. Instead of having, for example, this is the 24 by 24 inch shelf I'm working on right now. Instead of having 4 sharp corners on each end, I'm going to measure off 3 inches from the edge back on each side and draw a line between those marked points, and I'm going to go in and take that 45 and actually cut it. So what you end up doing with it is, instead of having 4 sides to a shelf, you actually have 8 sides, so you don't have this extending sharp pointed edge sticking out. So I'm measuring from the edge 3 inches to the other side 3 inches, and then I'm going to take either a handsaw or a jigsaw and cut that edge off. Again, it's kind of tasking if you have a handsaw and you have to do this, but it'll go very quickly if you got a jigsaw and you think this is something that you like to do. I'm just going to show what it looks like cutting the 24 by 24 inch shelf, but I would do all 4 shelves basically the same thing. Now this step is necessary for each shelf. We need, along the perimeter of the shelf, we need to drill like a 3/16 inch or 1/4 inch hole, randomly spaced, no exact measurements. But the purpose of these holes around the perimeter is that they're either going to hold your twist ties, which is going to in turn hold your garland and your lights around the perimeter of each shelf, or you're going to end up using the cup hooks like I mentioned earlier on the edge, and I'm going to show you a couple examples of what it looks like with the twist ties and with the cup hooks. I think we're almost there. The next part 6, should be the assembly, and I might do an extra part just to talk about decorations, but that's going to be a short one. So we're close to finishing this project. Keep a lookout for upcoming part 6.